Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today the 76ers are screwed. So, as you guys probably know, this is the season from hell for the 76ers. They are 20-36. They have the sixth worst record in the NBA. Embiid's been hurt the entire year. Paul George has, been banged up, but then also playing terribly when he's been playing. And things keep getting worse for the 76ers. So Shams on Sunday reported this about the state of Joel Embiid and his knee. I'll go ahead and show you guys what Shams reported. The Sixers and Joel Embiid are consulting doctors and considering alternate options on his injured knee. Sources tell ESPN sides have hoped for progress in Embiid's body, but his efforts to play and current treatments, including injections, have not provided any improvement. So to kind of add a little bit more context to that report, so Ramona Shelburne, like 2 weeks ago, was on ESPN and she kind of reported something similar, but she had a little bit more details. At that time, she said that the Sixers and Embiid have consulted 7 different doctors about his knee. And kind of the thing is, it's still basically he had his knee injury last year and it basically hasn't healed. His injury from last year, his meniscus, has not healed. And that's the same knee that he keeps getting, periodic swelling in, it seems like every month at this point. And what's interesting about that, they consulted those 7 doctors. Those doctors are telling him to do different things. There's some that from how I read the report was basically there's some doctors being like, hey, you need a surgery and that'll do it. There's other doctors that are saying like, no, you don't necessarily need a surgery. Now, I don't know if different doctors are saying you need different types of surgeries, but basically there isn't a consensus on how to fix his knee. And that is terrifying if you were the Philadelphia 76ers. That is terrifying if you're Joel Embiid and, obviously want to play basketball. Guys, it's turning into a point here. This is getting very, very doom and gloom in Philadelphia right now. This is at a point here where I don't know if we're going to see prime Joel Embiid again. I think his prime is over. He's going to turn 31 next month. He missed over half of last season. He's going to miss like 75% of this season. And he's going to be turning 31. What guys were injured in the beginning, middle, and primes of their careers and all of a sudden have the back half of their career just be completely healthy? No one. No one in NBA history is like that. I think we've seen the last of Joel Embiid. And here's the biggest problem for the 76ers. Before the season, they signed Joel Embiid to a massive extension. Bobby Marks pointed this out online, just exactly how much money is left on Joel Embiid's contract. By the way, this is after this season. This is all the money after this season. He's getting paid $55 million next year, 59 the year after that, 64 the year after that, and 69 in 2028, 2029, 4 years from now. All guaranteed money, $248 million. That's troublesome if you're the 76ers. That's troublesome because here's the thing. A lot of times with stars, when things don't work out, when when kind of like the timetable for a franchise and the championship window closes, okay, no big deal. This sucks, but we'll just trade the star. We'll trade the star to another team. They'll give us assets. They'll give us maybe a young player. They'll give us draft picks, and then we can start a new rebuild or move on from this thing. The problem with that contract there, who's trading for this? First off, it's a massive number. Who's trading for this? I don't think anyone is trading for this. So this is going to be an anchor for the Sixers for the next 4 years. This is going to be something that if you do, theoretically, you would just trade Embiid somewhere and get assets and then use those assets to build around Tyrese Maxey, who's 24, who is like a top 5 scorer in the NBA right now. Theoretically, you would do that, but you can't. This is the worst contract in the NBA. It's the worst contract in the NBA. And on top of that, too, Paul George has been putting up Tobias Harris numbers for the 76ers, and he got paid $210 million this summer. And it's not just the fact that Paul George got paid $210 million. It's just not the fact that Paul George hasn't been looking his best this year. Again, in the video we did a few weeks about this, talking about, hey, it's time for the Sixers to tank. we brought up the fact that Paul George has like a screwed up pinky and he's taking shots like every single game just so he can play without pain. But here's the thing too about Paul George. Paul George, and this is the big reason why the Los Angeles Clippers were fine with letting him go to the 76ers for nothing. Somebody pointed this out online that actually, and you guys might not believe, you guys aren't going to believe this stat. So here we are. Paul George has missed 156 games since the 2020 season. Joel Embiid has missed 152 games in that same stretch. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. By the way, that's responding to a quote that basically some reporter asked Paul George, like, hey, Joel Embiid's dealing with some, reoccurring injuries. You're an older player, you're a veteran. How do you deal with your injuries? And Paul George was like, drugs help. Paul George, you would think a guy that's 34 years old would just have better media training. He keeps kind of sticking his foot in his mouth. And you'd think too, like guys that actually have podcasts now, they say a lot of guys say a bunch of dumb stuff on their podcast, but you think sometimes that would give you more of like a edge on like how to like say things that aren't going to get you, aren't going to bring more attention that you already need to your team. And like Paul George just keeps kind of sticking his foot in his mouth. But you're telling me the Sixers right now, you sign Paul George, you sign Embiid, we're supposed to be competing over the next 4 years. And you got guys that the 4 years prior to this, the 4 or 5 years prior to this, are missing an insane amount of games. And Paul George is in his mid to late 30s now, or I guess he's in his mid 30s. He's 34. Joel Embiid's turning 31 next month. The Sixers are screwed. This team is screwed. This is a team that's getting older, more injured by the week. And there's no way out of this. That's the scary thing for the Sixers. There's no way out of this. No one's trading for that Joel Embiid contract. No one's trading for that Paul George contract. You're screwed. You're screwed. Your best thing that you can do is this season is tank. Joel Embiid keeps getting a swollen knee. He's been injured the entire year. Just say, Joel Embiid, you're done. You're done. We're done for the entire year. Paul George, you got that pinky thing. Even though Paul George is playing bad enough sometimes, it might be better for him to play so that you maybe can lose more games. But Paul George, you got that pinky thing. Go get that taken care of. Get healthy. We'll play with Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond. That's what we'll do. Because right now, guys, the 76ers have the 6th worst record in the NBA. Why is that important? It's important because they don't control their draft pick this year. Oklahoma City controls their draft pick this year, but that draft pick is top 6 protected. So meaning if they have the 6th pick, if they have that 6th best odds to get the number 1 pick, which would be the 6th worst record, I believe we went over the numbers a few weeks ago. That would basically be like over a 50% chance they keep the pick. Once they go into be like the 7th worst record, which by the way, the Brooklyn Nets, who are also tanking, have the 7th worst record and have 1 win more than them right now. That if they get to that 7th worst record, then all of a sudden that odds of keeping that pick change. And Oklahoma City could have a top 7 pick or a 7th, or basically like a top 10 lottery pick. And you got to get something to save this season. And that would be it. Just shut it down. And this is different too than the Dallas Mavericks a few years ago when they sat Luka for 3 games. It was like Luka really wasn't injured. This time you have like a general excuse. Paul George is taking shots at his pinky every single game. Joel Embiid needs surgery on his knee or needs something done with his knee. You have actually an out. You have an out. And you know what? The reason I don't think they've been doing it, now obviously these guys want to play. They want to compete. They want to, these guys are professional basketball players. Believe it or not, I think they like playing basketball. So that's obviously part of it. But the only reason that the organization, I think, has been letting these guys play through this and hasn't thrown in the towel yet. Again, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. Tank. The only reason they're not doing it, it's got to be job preservation. It's got to be job preservation. Nick Nurse wants to keep his job. Daryl Morey wants to keep his job. It has to be job preservation. There's no other reason to keep playing these guys. There's no other reason. You're actually in a rare position. You could get a top 6 pick. In what I've been hearing, NBA draft experts is there's like a top 6 in this class, and then there's everyone else. That is what the draft experts are saying. So you could get a blue chip guy. And by the way, that pick might not be 6. That pick could go up to 2. It could go up to 3. It could go up to 4. You could have an amazing young basketball player coming onto your team next year. But for some reason, it seems like these guys in Philadelphia that are running the Sixers don't want to do that. They don't want to do that. I don't know why. It has to be job preservation. And if I'm a Philadelphia Sixers fan, I'd be pretty disgusted right now for many different reasons that we just laid out in the last 10 minutes. So I'm sorry, Sixers fans. I hope there's some miracle. I hope Embiid's career isn't completely altered. Would love to see Prime Embiid back, healthy, playing a bunch of games, but doesn't look good right now for that. It really doesn't. It's pretty sad. Pretty sad because he is very talented. So that's going to do it for this episode here today. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so already. That helps me keep doing more of these videos. So subscriptions cost you absolutely nothing, and they help support the show. It's the best way you can support the show, subscribing. Feel free to leave a comment what you think about the Sixers season, what you think they should do with these guys, because I don't think there's any answers, and I think they're in like basketball Siberia right now. So again, thank you for watching. I'll talk to you next time.